Since I can't help it, as an academic, we, whatever the basics are, we call 101. So you take Econ 101 or Poli-Sci Econ 101. So let's talk a little bit about umpiring 101. And what I'm basically going to do is steal the stuff out of our manual, okay? So I'm going to talk about some stuff in there, umpiring 101. Come on. We'll talk about the 7 laws of umpiring, which we know umpire by priority. This is kind of it takes repeated iterations to force alien concepts upon unwilling minds. That means if I tell you it a whole bunch of times, maybe it'll stick, right? The more times I throw it in your head, the more likely it is to stick. So we'll talk about that again, a little bit about that again. We'll talk about some other basic concepts, and this is this whole, we won't talk about that, I won't talk about that, because you don't know anything about that right now. So that was kind of my presentation from last year at the clinic. So we'll talk a little bit about the 7 laws of umpiring, and this comes right out of Evans' mechanics manual, and this is at the beginning before we even learn mechanics. So we're going to kind of work right through that. We talked a little bit about this before. When you're on the field, we want to anticipate all play possibilities but not their outcomes. Remember, this is part of what we talked about before about umpiring is different than watching a game, right? Umpiring is different than watching the game. We may anticipate possibilities from plays, but we can't anticipate their outcomes. So one of the things we want to learn to do when we umpire is how do we anticipate the play? How do we anticipate where the ball's going to go, where the play is going to happen? And we're going to actually define things like play. And if we can do that, we'll be better umpires. Okay. And I'm just kind of listing the laws here. Law number 2 is proper positioning is defined by proper angle and distance. So when we talk about positioning, we need to have both angle and distance. So we'll talk about the importance of those. Angle comes before distance, right? So that'd be angle A greater than D, right? In your mathematical formula. So angle is greater than distance, okay? More important than distance. Proper positioning is a function of time. And we'll talk about what that means. There are 3 possible positions for every play. 3 possible positions for every play. And then we're going to learn that the call is the mental process and the signal is the physical. So there's a difference. When you see an umpire go like this, most of us would say he called him out. Well, when I did this, I called him out a long time ago. Right? All I did is all the signals is a confirmation of what I've decided, and then an announcement of what I've decided. I've announced to you that I've decided he's out. Okay, I've announced that he's safe. I've announced strike, whatever it is. So signals are an announcement; they're not the call. And that's an important distinction we'll make, okay? And nothing is routine until it's over. Nothing is routine until it's over. And this is important if you want to become good at this and advance at this. You have to umpire, kind of a joke I use or a phrase I use when people tell me on the field, they look at me and go, that was a close one. I go, that's the one you pay me for. Okay? All the other ones are easy. Even Peyton, when he's coaching, can get them right. Right? It's the ones that are close that we're getting paid for. It's the ones that they would get in a fight over if they're in the 28-year-old league with no umpires that we're getting paid for. It's in other words, and those plays might happen 3, 4, 5 times a game, maybe. There's not a lot of really close calls in a game in most games, but those 3, 4, 5 times can make the difference between the game going really well and the game being really bad. Right? And we all know that from when we were kids, right? One of the cool things about being kids and playing games where there was no officials is we learned important things like compromise and how to deal with stressful situations, how to settle things without fighting, all that kind of stuff. That was one of the best things about umpiring your own games when you're a kid. When you're 28, that doesn't work so well, right? When they're playing like this, it doesn't work so well. So in that event, given that those plays don't happen very often, what we want to always do is keep in mind is we should always umpire for the 1 in 100 play, not the 99 plays. And too many umpires, the standard problem with a lot of umpires is they umpire for the 99 and not the 1. The 99 will take care of themselves. They don't need you to umpire. It's the 1 in 100 that needs you to umpire. The problem is nobody tells you when that one's coming. Nobody announces, hey, this one's about to be a nightmare. So if you don't umpire every play like it's a nightmare, you're going to end up that one play, you could be 99 right. You could have 99 in a row right, and here comes that one play, and you took that play off, and it blows up, and all the hard work you did to get respected in a fit goes completely away like that. Okay. So we're going to umpire, no play can be considered over. Okay. Let's talk about anticipation. So remember, the first thing we said was anticipate all play possibilities but not their outcomes. Okay. Anticipate the play possibilities but not their outcomes. Why? Anticipation is critical to us being successful. If we, this is one of the things, and Peyton will tell you, and I keep picking on Peyton because he also coaches, but a coach and the players can tell when you don't understand the game. That guy doesn't know anything about the game. Which means what's happening is he can tell that you don't know where to be. You don't know why were you surprised by what just happened? And if you're surprised by what just happened, that means you're not anticipating, you don't understand all of those sorts of things. So it becomes really important to our success. So we have to be able to anticipate the next play, right? And that's necessary for getting into position. I probably should have, but we get a little silly on things. What do we mean, and I'm pretty sure it's here in our glossary. I hope it's here in our glossary. When I say, I should probably put on my reading glasses so I can see, but the words are big enough. Maybe not. What do we mean by the word play? It's important in baseball from an umpire perspective. What do we mean by the word play? Now there's a rule book definition of play. Right? The rule book definition of play is what happens when we make the ball alive, and we can talk about that. And if we go and look at the rule for play, a ball becomes alive and in play. If it was dead before, it becomes alive and in play under certain circumstances. And we'll talk about those later, but basically there has to be 3 things to happen for the ball to become alive and in play. The pitcher has to have the ball standing on the rubber. The hitter has to be ready to hit, and the catcher has to be behind, ready to catch. If you don't have one of those 3 things, we're not going to put the ball in play. All 3 of those things have to happen, and then it's incumbent upon umpires to say the ball is now in play. Right? Make some indication that, okay, we're ready to go again. And that's important for lots of things, but that's not what we're talking about. So what is the definition of play? And it says here in our Jim Evans glossary of terms, G25, play, a definition. For umpiring purposes, the criteria for defining a play are the imminent status of the ball and runner. Holy moly, what the hell does that mean? Imminent status of the ball and runner. I won't read you the rest of it, but let's think about what that means. To have a play, we have to have a ball and runner arrive in some place in some close proximity to each other. So a play happens when we have a ball and a runner. So when we say we need to anticipate the play, the next play, we have to anticipate where the next time a ball and a runner will arrive at the same place roughly at the same time. So we don't want to go chasing the ball around, because if there's no runner, there's no play. And there's no reason for us to chase the ball around. Because remember, baseball is a game where they try to score more runs than the other, and they try to put guys out by touching them with the ball while they're not on the base, right? Or touching the base before they get there in certain situations. And we haven't talked about safe out, but we can talk about all that kind of stuff later. But if you don't have a ball, you can't put a runner out. If you don't have a runner, you can't put a runner out. So that means you have to have a ball and a runner, be someplace close together at the same time, and then you can have outs and safes, okay? In particular outs. So that means we have to be prepared or know where is the next likely place where a ball and a runner are about to show up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to umpire by that. We have to anticipate where's that going to happen. And if you don't, you're not going to be able to get in position. So if you look and now you chase the ball around, and this is one of the things that you can't do as an umpire, and the umpiring is really weird because a lot of times in umpiring you have to do exactly the opposite of what you do as a player. As a player, you chase the ball. You watch the ball, you chase the ball. As a runner, or as an umpire, a lot of times you move away from the ball. And that's going to be peculiar to and that is weird when you start to umpire. But anyway, if we're going to have a ball and a runner come together, we have to anticipate it. So, if there's a runner on first base and the ball is hit into the gap in right center field, and the runner from first base running, does anybody believe there'll be a play at third base? Ball's hit in the gap.
Yeah, could be.
In the gap.
No.
No. So do we have to worry should we run over to third and wait for the runner? No, probably not. Well, if the ball is hit in the gap, where's the likely place on a baseball field where the ball and the runner will come together?
Second.
Probably second base, right? So if we know that and the ball's in the gap, I can go, oh, okay, my best place to be is over near second base. Well, if I watch the runner and he's fast enough and the ball gets to the fence, and now he's going to make it to second and the ball won't be there, where's my next likely play to be? Over to third or possibly second. So I might want to get to what we're going to talk about later is this idea of split the difference. Right? So if we anticipate where the play is going to be, that's going to help us move where it is. Now that seems kind of simple, and it is, because that's why it's called umpiring 101. But if you can't do that well, you can't be a good umpire. So we have to learn to anticipate, and that's necessary for being consistently in a good position and for being successful. Yeah.
That being said, and going back to the ball in the gap, you're talking about ball and play going to closest where the play's going to be at. But if it's a ball in the gap and there could be a fly ball, guy just make that dive and catch, whose call is it?
We'll talk about that. Okay, so now we're talking about if the ball's going to be caught, now I have a different thing going on, so now I have to be aware of catch, no catch comes before play, because play is out safe. So that means now I'm not going to worry about my play, I'm going to worry about catch, no catch. And whose call that is going to depend on where we started and where the runner started. So we'll get to those responsibilities when we go to mechanics. Okay? So we got to get to mechanics first. And I hope we'll do that in the next week or so. Okay? Now we can't anticipate the outcome. Players and fans and coaches and all those people anticipate the outcomes. They see the ball and they go, oh man, everything's going to second base. Oh, that guy's going to be out. He's away from second. That guy's going to be out. Well, we have to watch the game differently. We can anticipate that this thing's going to happen at second base, and it's necessary for us to be there. But once we've decided and we've anticipated and we're in a place where the next one's going to happen, we certainly can't now anticipate what the guy's going to be. And those of you guys that have umpired a little bit will tell you that the calls you miss are the ones that you anticipated, that you expected to turn one way and they turned another way. So this is a very hard thing to do, but don't anticipate the call. You can anticipate, don't anticipate the outcome. All right? Pretty good with that? Okay. Anticipation is important. If I was really good, I'd have had the old Heinz ketchup commercial they'd be singing in the background. Anticipation. Right? Remember those commercials with the ketchup? It's making me... No, Patrick, I don't know. You're too young.
Too young, man.
Too young. All right. Proper position, angle, and distance. How many acres is a baseball field? It's pretty big, right? It's a lot of ground for two umpires to cover, isn't it? It's a lot of ground for two guys to cover, 2 acres. So that means every single thing we're going to do is a compromise. Every single place we go is a compromise between better places. But we have a lot of place to cover. So what we're going to try to do is set up a system based on the priorities that are going to get us in the best position. So if we think about angle and distance are very important, because think about this. The closer you are to the play, the more credible you are. The closer you are to the play, the more credible you are. Okay? But the problem is being close to the play sometimes gives me a bad angle. Close is not always good. So if I asked you right now, are my two hands touching each other?
Can't tell.
None of you could tell right now. But if I go like that,
Nope.
it's real easy for you to see, isn't it? Why? Because you have a better angle. So the angle is a lot more important than the distance, isn't it? It wouldn't matter how close you got to me, unless you could look up over the top of my hands. It wouldn't matter how close you got to me. I could hold my hands close enough not touching or touching that you couldn't tell no matter how close you got to me. So angle is a lot more important than distance. Angle always comes first. So that means we're going to have to learn what is the angle that we want. What is it that I'm trying to see between? Because what I was asking you to do is to look between my hands. So when we umpire, there's always these things that we're trying to see between. So you think of yourself as a wedge, and you're trying to stick your nose in between the two things you're going to see, because that's where your eyeballs are, right? So your nose is like a wedge. You're trying to stick in the right angle. If you can get that right angle, your distance won't necessarily matter. Now again, distance is important for credibility. It's really bad for visibility. Because I could be so close to a play I can't see it, but I'd be really credible. You know, if I was standing right next to the first baseman when he caught a guy, when there was a ball come at first base, out or safe at first base, some people might think, man, he was right on top of that. Look how close he was. That makes him credible. But you can't see anything, right? So there's a visibility, credibility trade-off that we have to exploit. How far away should, if we're really far away, we're not credible, right? We're not credible. So we have to do both things, angle and distance, but what comes first? Angle. Angle before distance, okay? Understand that there's a perfect position for every play. There is a perfect position for every play. The likelihood you get in that position is really pretty small, and we'll talk about that, and that's what we're going to try to do is get you to that. So there is a perfect position for every play. So there is one perfect position for every play, but there is no one position that's perfect for every play. There is one position that's perfect for every play, but there's no one position that's perfect for every play. That make sense? Just matters what I emphasize, right? Same words, same order, just matters what I emphasize, okay? The perfect position for every play is defined by the angle and the distance. It's defined by your angle and your distance. Okay? Which comes first? Angle, then distance. Okay? The umpire's first priority is to identify that position. Where do I believe? Now, why is anticipate important? Because I'm trying to anticipate where that perfect position is, right? I'm trying to anticipate where that perfect position is. So I want to anticipate where the play is going to happen so I can be or attempt to be in the perfect position, identify that position, and then get there as quickly as possible. And get there as quickly as possible. Again, angle over distance, right? Angle before distance. Given that you know the proper position, hustle, okay? And there's a, if you read the definition here, hustle shows up in the definitions, right? Because there's a big long glossary of what different things mean. So if we look up hustle, and I believe I have it right there kind of written out, but say we look up hustle in the glossary. Hustle. I think he has hustle in there. Hustle is the act of moving into a proper position for a play as quickly as possible. I think I wrote that down, huh? That's what hustle is. It's not simply running fast. Okay? It doesn't mean running fast. Okay? If you don't understand the proper position, angle and distance for a particular play, you could hustle yourself out of position, right? instead of hustling into position. So what does hustling do? It enables us to get in a proper position before the play develops. A synonymous term would be, and we like to talk this out when we talk about umpiring, you'll hear this term called busting in. Bust into your position, bust to your position. So when we say bust to your position, how many of you have umpired and you're at first base and the ball gets hit and you stand and you've umpired before and you just walk over like this toward where you're supposed to be in first base, and then the ball gets here, you go like this and you walk back? None of you have ever done that, right? Baloney, okay? That's not busting in, is it? That's not hustling. Now guess what? 99 plays out of 100 at first base, you could do with your eyes closed, right? You could just close your eyes, listen, hear, slap, thud, okay, that dude's out. Turn around, walk back, go, he's out. You come back over here. We want to get in our position, and I'm going to tell you why we want to be there in a second, right? So hustle is moving into the proper position as quickly as possible. What hustle allows is timely arrival. And what I mean by timely arrival, that means that ahead of time from the play, being in the place you anticipated, so that you could make adjustments, and we'll come back to adjustments later. Because plays don't always develop exactly the way you thought they were. So that means whatever position you're in now may not be the best one later. It may not be the best one when you get there. And you can't hustle if you don't know the proper position. How come you can't hustle if you don't know the proper position?
You don't know where you're going.
Okay, because hustle is defined as moving into the proper position, right? So if you don't know the proper position, it's impossible to hustle. Right? If you don't know the proper position, it's impossible to hustle. So that means we have to know the proper positions, and we have to move, here's the 25-cent word for the day, with all due alacrity into our things. And that's because Jess likes new words. Alacrity. That means cheerful readiness. See? I get crap for using big words all the time, or using new words all the time, so I have to, because at this point it's part of the game. If I don't, then people are I don't want to disappoint them. So at this point I have to, right? So what should you do? Hustle to the proper angle first, and then what? Get closer to the play. How close?
Close as the play will allow.
Close as the play will allow. What does that mean? You can read, that's good. What does that mean? What does close as the play will allow mean? Well, I don't like this word, we're going to change this word, but you have to be set when the play occurs. The metaphor we always use in umpiring is your eyes are a camera. Your eyes are a camera. So if you're moving and you're trying to take a picture, what's the picture look like?
Blurry.
It's blurry. So we want ourselves to be stopped, and I would rather use the word stop than set, so I'm going to probably say stop, because I've noticed over time that when I use the word set, it gets confused with something else, and then people do things that makes the camera get blurry. Okay? So what do you want to be? You want stopped, and in particular, what do you want to have stopped? Your eyeballs. You want your eyeballs to be stopped, and you don't want them to be moving, because then the picture will be in focus. So, there's two types of plays, which we'll talk about later. There's force plays, which generally you guys know what they are, right? You all know that a force play is a play where a runner is forced to vacate the base by the virtue of the batter becoming the runner, right? You could have said that just now without me saying that to you, right?
No, not those exact words.
Well, I'm going to learn you to say those in that exact words, because it's important, right? Because there's a bunch of things on baseball fields that look like force plays that are not. So if you don't understand that a force play means a guy has to give up his right to the base by virtue of a batter becoming a runner, and you think other things that look like force plays are force plays, you're going to get in trouble, because there's rules about scoring runs and things like that that are contingent upon things being force plays. And the classic one is when a guy leaves a base early and they try to throw it back to the base. That's not a force play. That guy's not forced to go back to the base, because guess what? If the ball was caught, the batter's no longer a runner, so he can therefore no longer be forced to go anywhere.
Say that again. You lost me on that one.
I know.
Guy catches the ball.
Talking about a tag up play?
I sort of intentionally lost you on that because I want to kind of demonstrate the importance of knowing the difference, okay? If there's a fly ball hit to the outfield and the guy leaves from second base early,
Right,
and you catch the ball,
right,
and you throw the ball back to second base to
Right.
try to get him out before he goes back to second,
right.
that's not a force play. It looks like a force play.
It's considered a force play.
No, it is not. Under no circumstances it's considered a force play, because what's the definition of force play?
Had to be forced off of a.
By the batter on
He has to give up his right to the base by virtue
The batter.
of the batter becoming a runner. Well, the batter is now out.
So he's not a runner.
So he's not a runner, he's out. So can there be any more force plays once the batter is out? No more force plays. Once the batter's out, he's not a runner anymore, no more force plays.
Yeah, but he's out though on.
Yeah, we're not saying whether he's out or not, but it's not a force play. It looks like a force play, it's not. So we'll get to force plays in a little bit, but that's, okay, we'll get there, and we'll talk about, we will unpack force play and the importance of force play on run scoring and all that kind of stuff, okay? But it's not a force play. So, but generally speaking, on force plays, you want to have some distance away from the play. So you like to be 20, 22 feet away from a force play. And by the way, plays at first base that are like they throw the ball to first base and the batter runner's out right there are not force plays. Because the batter runner hasn't been forced to vacate anything by virtue of him becoming a runner. So plays at first base on the batter runner are not force plays by definition. So you want another one that looks like a force play and is not a force play? That's not a force play.
By definition, it's not.
By definition, it is not a force play. So that means it has implications for other things down the line, for rule, for especially run scoring, things like that, okay? Tag plays, you'd like to be 8 or 10 feet. Because you want to be, now credibility is important, right? Visibility becomes more important on force plays, because generally speaking on force plays, the ball and the runner will be in different places. So you have to be able to see both of them at the same time. So the more distance you have, the better your field of vision is. On a tag play, the ball and the runner will be in the same place. So that means I can get closer because now all I need to do is see the ball and the runner in the same place. I don't have to have as wide a field of vision. Make sense? All right. So distance, which comes first?
Angle.
Angle and then
Distance.
distance, right? Angle and then distance. Okay. If players are moving, guess what? Angle, proper angle and distance are changing while you're standing still. So if you ran in to get an angle and it's the perfect angle and the players keep moving, you may not be in the best place anymore. You know, if the ball keeps moving if you decide, here's the ball's going to go like this and the runner's going to come like this, they're going to go like this, I stick my nose in that little wedge right there, I can see, awesome. But now if the runner starts going this way, or the runner starts going that way, or the ball starts going that way, guess what? He's coming this way, I might not be in the best place anymore. So we have to make adjustments. And that's going to be, and thankfully in two-man, it's not as many but the higher up you go, the more umpires you put, the more adjustment there is, because the more likely you are to be having been on top of a play. But if you don't learn it in two-man, you're not going to learn it as you move up, okay? All right, as far as the play will allow was hustle, right? To get as close as far as the play will allow. What does that mean? Umpiring is a function of time, right? Umpiring is a function of time. Here's some things that affect how far to advance towards the perfect position. Trajectory of the ball. What's the ball look like? Is it looped in? Is it straight in? Is it thrown hard? Is it thrown easy? The harder it's thrown, the less time you have. The easier it's thrown, the more time you have. The more up in the air it is, the more time. The more in a straight line it is, the less time. So the trajectory of the ball, the position of the fielders matter. Right? This position of the fielders matter. Where are the fielders standing? Are they near where the play is going to be? Not near where the play is. Is that Kev? Morning, Kev. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
For those of you that don't know, this is Kevin Smith. He's part of my training team. He's been busy the last couple weeks. He's also on the Big South staff, the Colonial staff, and MEAC staff, right?
Close enough. The high school staff.
Maybe.
And a high school guy. And Kev's been training with us for a while, so. We're talking about the 7 laws of umpiring. If you feel like you want to jump in, please, anytime you want, and add or color or something like that. So, I was actually, by the way, remember I talked about being happy about your fellow umpires? I got a phone call, a friend of mine today, he lives in Pontotoc, Mississippi, Jackie Kaysen. I call him Elvis, because that's where Elvis is from, Pontotoc, Mississippi, right? So Pontotoc, he got in Conference USA this year. So he called me to tell me, so I was pretty excited. He got to move up, and now he's in Conference USA, so I was pretty happy for him. So I was excited about that. So I thought I'd share the good news with you, because one of our guys got advanced, so great guy too. I went to umpire school with him 16 years ago now. 16 years ago. And he lives in Mississippi. I see him once a year, and we talk a couple times a year. All right. As far as the play will allow, trajectory of the ball, position of the fielders, where your next play is. Right? Remember I said something about split. We said that. We got that ball that's hitting the gap, and we don't know whether it's going to be at second or whether it's going to be at third. Guess what? We probably got to get somewhere between second and third, so that if it goes to second, we could go to second. If it goes to third, we could go to third. If we stand at second and we were wrong, and the ball goes way over to third, it's going to be hard for us to get distance, isn't it? So we're going to learn to anticipate where we think that is, and that's going to help us. The interesting thing in two-man is there's a lot of plays, and most of you have umpired, and you know there's a place back there we call the working area, or the sweet spot, or something like that. And basically we look around and we decide where we want to be in that little space. So a lot of it is about anticipating that, where the ball is going to go next, and all that. And the other thing that matters is how fast are the players. If the players are a lot faster than you are, you can't get as much distance as they can. If you're faster than the players, you can get more distance. Or if you anticipate better than the players, you can get more distance. So this anticipation, where you're going to be, all of that determines how far you can get. Umpiring's not a contest of who gets closest to the play. It's not a contest, because what happens is a lot of guys won't be stopped. They'll think, I got to get that extra distance, and they move, and then what do we know about our eyes? They're like a camera, and then we get blurry pictures. So, and I know we don't know anything about where we're supposed to be yet, or who's responsible for what yet, but the beauty of this is if you get these laws down, all the rest of it will make sense, because you'll start to see, oh, that's why they put us over here. Because if I go over there and end up over there, I'm in really big trouble if I go too far that way. Or I'm in trouble if I don't go far enough that way. So understanding the basic underlying reasons for the mechanics is going to help you understand the mechanics better. Priority number 1 is know the proper position. Know where it is, and then try to get to it. Okay? And then try to get to it. Priority number 2, get there. All right. Split the difference. This is something you heard me say and will say again. Split the difference happens when you might be responsible for more than one play. Now think about this. If you're only with 2 umpires, right, and one of them is behind the plate, and you're the base umpire, there could be times when you could be responsible for 3 different plays, right? You could be responsible for a ball and a runner going to first base, a ball and a runner going to second base, and a ball and a runner going to third base all at the same time. So where do you go? So one of the things is we have to anticipate where the play is going to go, but if we're going to anticipate, what we would like to do is be in a position so that we were roughly the same distance from all our potential plays. hence the phrase split the difference. So one of the things you'll hear, a phrase you'll hear over and over again in mechanics, when we talk about mechanics, is we'll say, when you have multiple responsibilities, split the difference. Split the difference. So if I'm responsible for a play at either first or third, I might stand right directly behind the mound. You know, not in the dirt, but I'll show you, directly, you know, right up the middle of the field. If I'm responsible for a play at second or third, I might be over halfway between second and third. If I'm responsible for a play at first and second, I might be halfway between first and second. So that's what we mean by split the difference. And the same thing might be true if you're a plate umpire. You might have more than one responsibility. Not as likely, though, as a plate umpire. When's it necessary? When you have multiple possible responsibilities. Okay? And our responsibilities in order are ball strike, fair foul, catch no catch. No, you got to do it too. You can't rely.
No,
She's not going to be
rolling,
working
man.
with you.
I'm enjoying it.
She's not going to be working with you, and you're going to think it's a force play when I throw the ball to first, second base.
We can't pick our partners?
No. Ball strike.
Yep.
Catch no catch.
Okay. Nah.
Fair foul.
Fair foul.
Catch no catch.
Catch no catch.
I'll say.
Safe out. Out safe.
Obstruction.
Obstruction, interference.
the
All the other crap. Right? And all the other crap we'll learn later is things like touching, retouching, all that kind of stuff, right? Remember, got to umpire in the order of your priorities. Splitting the difference prevents the chasing plays around, being at second base when you should have been at third, being at first when you should have been at third, okay? We're going to talk about this area, and this is a little bit ahead because I was doing this for a different group before. The working area is designed, and the working area is a place behind the mound, in the middle of the infield, behind the mound, and it's a box that goes from about a third of the distance between the mound and second to about a third of the distance from second to the mound, and then it's that middle third right in there. It's a little rectangle, that's the middle third right in there. And you spend most of your time in two-man in the middle of that area when you have multiple responsibilities and pieces of that area, and we'll talk about that. So working area is going to become a phrase that we want. I think, if I remember, since we've been looking at things, I wonder if working area is defined in our glossary. Well, what do you know? The working area is defined in our glossary, right? So the working area says, the working area is an imaginary rectangle measuring approximately 8 feet by 22 feet located between the mound and second base. And it says, see these diagrams. Right? And I don't have a picture, but I'll hold up in chapter 4 the diagram. We should be able to find, let's see if I can find it. Diagram 4.1. There's a little box. I know it's kind of hard to see. Maybe I should take a picture of it, but there's a little box right there. That's behind the mound. That's the working area. Okay, and then we're going to learn about what all these pictures mean as we go through. Okay, that's the working area. And we're in the work, splitting the difference recognizes that we have trade-offs, and our trade-off is between what? Angle and distance. Which one comes first?
Angle.
And then, and how do we get our distance? We hustle, and what does hustle mean?
Getting to the proper position.
Getting to the proper position. So if you know don't know the proper position, can you hustle?
No.
No. Because hustle by definition is getting into the proper position, right? With all due, what was our new word?
Oh, man. What is
Bust in, but alacrity, right? Our new word was alacrity. Come on, Kev, I have to. You know I have to. I've already explained it to him that I have to, okay? It wouldn't be one of my talks if I didn't. How far? As far as the play will allow, right? I'm going to ask these questions a lot, and remember, here's the thing, is after you're done being trained, and you go out and you come back, or you're working with people, and you want to help others out, you should know what these things are, because if you know what they are, you can help people out. The more you know, the more you can remember, the more you can help tell these to other people. You know what happens? You learn by teaching. You learn by teaching. So what I'm after here is I'm not training 8 or 10 umpires. I'm training 8 or 10 teachers. Because I want you to learn to umpire, and then I want you to teach. When I keep doing this, next year when some new guys come in, I want you to help them learn, because you learned it. And then when new guys come in, I want that to happen, and eventually what I want is everybody to be able to help everybody else, that everybody knows and can teach everybody else. So we shouldn't be relying on just 2 guys to teach all the time. It should be anybody. I could get anybody in here, hey, I need you to talk about angle and distance and its importance today. And you could get up in front of the room and say, here's why we do angle over distance. Because that's going to make you a better umpire. Okay? All right, angle over distance again, more on that. We just said earlier, if a player's moving, proper angle or distance are changing if you're standing still. If you're standing still, the proper angle's changing, moving away from you. Okay. Another thing we're going to talk about is proper footwork. And I'm a footwork Nazi. Kevin will tell you that. I am a footwork Nazi. Because it's a weird thing about our anatomy. We go where our feet go. I don't quite understand that, but generally speaking, wherever our feet go, that's where our head goes. I have not seen too many people, except it would have been a great place for, say I had a picture of an umpire that fell down and his head was over here and his feet were over there. It'd be a really good place for that picture right now. I've never seen that happen, an umpire fall down and have his head and his feet in 2 different places. But the general idea is your head's going to go where your feet go. And if you don't move your feet right, it'll be a lot easier to get your head where it belongs if you know how to use your feet. Right? And is there any sport any of you have ever engaged in where your feet don't matter?
Nope.
Footwork matters a lot, right? A good shortstop has good footwork. A good catcher has good footwork. A good defensive basketball player has good footwork. A good cornerback has good footwork. A good quarterback, good footwork. A good lineman, good footwork, right? So guess what? Umpiring is an athletic endeavor. You've got to have good footwork. Why should it be any different than any other endeavor? Right? Take your Frankenstein boots and leave them at home. Right? We got to have our dancing shoes. If Matt Pearman was here, I'd say something about Frankenstein boots and shoes, but he's not here, so I won't be time. If you have your footwork right and you begin to anticipate, what's really cool is instead of getting your angle, then your distance, if you do footwork right, you can get them both at the same time. Because you can anticipate and you can move to the angle at the same time you're getting the distance. If you don't know that, then you got to go this angle, I got to come over here and get my angle, and then get my distance, right? So if I want to see between these chairs and the play's over there, I got to get my angle first, then my distance. If I know something, I can go right from here to there. If I anticipate right, I can make this and get closer instead of doing that. So again, that's why footwork is really important. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about footwork when we start to get physical with this. We're going to go over there in Peyton's big indoor place and run around in there. Peyton's going to let us run around in his big gym. Okay. One of the biggest things you're going to see, and I talked about this earlier, is one of the biggest mistakes umpires make is they run at plays. I see the ball over there, it's going to be a catch, no catch, I'm going to run right at it. Well, that's not always the best thing to do, because what if you run right at it and now you're trying to see if I catch the ball like this, the ball hit my glove, hit the ground and go in the glove, or did it go in the glove? Well, if you were over there, that'd be a lot easier to see, right? This is a lot easier to see than that is. So, you know what's really weird on a lot of plays? You want to run away from the play. You want to run over there, not at the play. And we're going to talk about how to do that, okay? All right. Proper position is a function of time. More time means greater probability of getting in position. The more time we have, the more likely we are to get in position. And what did the time depend on? Remember? What did the time depend on?
Speed of the runners.
Speed of the runners.
Trajectory of the ball.
Trajectory of the ball. Velocity of the ball, right? And what could we do to help ourselves in all of those?
Good feet work.
Good footwork and
Anticipate.
anticipate.
Oh,
And anticipate, right?
I'm gonna have to.
And anticipate. See, you're learning.
Got that.
That's all I ask for, okay? There's an infinite number of possibilities on any play, isn't there? Infinite means really big, right? I'm not supposed to curse in here because we're in church, but I would say bleep ton, right? There's a bleep ton of things that could happen, okay? You can't know the best place before the play. Okay? We can't know before the play. So that's why it's important for us to do all those things. We're going to talk about this, pause, read, and react. This is another really important concept in umpiring. Pause, read, and react. You reckon pause, read, and react is defined in our glossary of words? Let's see. Pause, read, oh, look at that. Pause, read, and react. Pause, read, and react. What does pause, read, and react mean? It means the pause, read, and react technique illustrates the step-by-step approach a base umpire should take in order to determine his responsibilities and best positioning for an ensuing play. When the ball is initially hit, the umpire should hesitate momentarily to assess the potential situation. What do you reckon that's called?
Pause.
Pause, right?
Um,
He should hesitate momentarily. Ooh, what's going on? What's going on? While paused, he observes the location of the ball and the fielders in order to mentally determine if the ball is in his area of jurisdiction. So he looks and he says, okay, there goes the ball, there goes the fielder, am I supposed to take care of that? Now, we don't know yet, some of you do because you umpire, but we'll learn the rules about who's responsible for that, and you look and you say, am I supposed to take care of that? That's my pause, right? I wonder if I'm supposed to take care of that. Okay. He then assesses the most likely play situation that could occur. That's the read. I wonder where the ball might end up and where, if the runner, because we already know what a play is, right? Ball and runner, or a catch, which is different than a play. I wonder if the ball will end up over here. So now I'm reading. Which is part of now, the read helps me to do what? Do what?
Anticipate.
React? Nope. You want to anticipate. Why do we want to anticipate?
To react.
Nope. Why is it important to anticipate?
So we know where our
So you know where you need to be.
So we can hustle.
So we can hustle, which means if we can anticipate, we can get into the proper position, which means if we can anticipate, maybe we make ourselves almost as fast as runners are, right? Because we're not living by the moment. We anticipate, oh, I think it's going to go over there. So that allows me to hustle, which means what?
Getting to the proper position.
Getting to the proper position. If we don't know the proper position, can we hustle?
you know.
Negative. And they told me you weren't educable.
Me? Every now and then.
Well, and that's what I just
Old
tell you
dogs
that.
can learn,
You can learn new tricks.
They can, yeah.
Following the read, he establishes his position based on the best judgment of what is most likely to occur. He decides to either to do certain things. What do we call that?
React.
React, right? So on every play, or every potential play, every time you got something that might happen, you should pause, read, react. Stand still, right? And how many, if you've been to a camp that I've done or a clinic that I've done, what's the thing I tell you to do? You'll hear this over and over again from me. Step up, turn, face the ball, stand still. Step up, turn, face the ball, stand still. Why do I want you to stand still?
No 6 steps to nowhere.
No 6 steps to nowhere, and it's a lot easier to take the world in when you're standing still than when you're moving, isn't it? Right? And if you're running, think about what happens to your field of vision. As you run, we get narrower and narrower and narrow, right? So when you want to run, when you know where you're going, and you have to get there. If you don't know where you're going, the more slowly you move, the easier it is to observe everything. I've never heard anybody say, I'm going to go for a run in the forest because I want to look at the birds. You walk through let's go for a walk and we can look at the birds and the flowers and the waterfall and all that. When you run, we're not looking at the birds and the waterfowl. We might like it because it's a little more peaceful, but you're not noticing a whole heck of a lot of nature when you're running through the woods, are you? If you're walking through the woods, you can notice a whole heck of a lot more with nature, right? Walking through the woods with your significant other, hand in hand, looking around. Look at that bird over there. Look at this chipmunk. Oh, isn't that cute? Running. Chipmunk, huh? What chipmunk? I'm just trying not to trip on this root. That's why it's important to pause. Right? Physically, biologically, it works. There's a reason that our field of vision narrows when we're running. We have this thing about avoiding danger that's kind of built into us. Okay? Pause, read, and react. What is a play?
Ball and runner.
It requires a ball and a runner, right? Properly reading cues will allow umpires more time to hustle in position. I wonder what a cue is. What do you reckon a cue is?
A long stick.
Yep, could be a long stick. Let's see if the word cue appears in here. I don't know if it does. I don't think he did. Nope. Cue appears a little bit later in the book, though. I know that.
A suggestion that the coaches make.
It could be. Okay. Could be. A cue is a key or a guide to what might happen, right? A key or a guide to what might happen. So if I can read cues, it's going to allow me more time to hustle. If I look and I'm trying to decide what the shortstop's going to do, and I see him start to turn his body this way, then he's likely to throw over there. He's not likely to throw over there because they don't throw like this. They throw like this. Right? If I see a runner, if I'm watching a runner and he makes a really wide turn at first base and he looks like he's still getting it, that's a cue. Oh, that dude might go to second. But if he's running in a straight line right up to first base, or he's jogging as he gets to first base, he's telling you, hey, I'm stopping. Right? If I look over and the third base coach is going like this and the whole yard is yelling, run, 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 go, 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 guess what I'm going to guess? That dude's going to go home, so I should probably pay attention to that. And those things are important, even when you get into bigger umpires, more umpires, anticipating things. You know, catchers do things to tell first baseman they might try to throw behind the guy at first base. You can pay attention to that. If you look over and all of a sudden the catcher picks up a handful of dirt and throws it like that, and you're in the middle of the field, you might go, oh, they might try to throw behind that dude, right? Or if you see the catcher bang his glove on the ground, or he yells the first baseman's name all of a sudden. Those are cues to you, right? If you're in the middle of the infield and you see the catcher go like this, it probably means he's going to throw the ball to first base. So you can anticipate that. Don't do it now, but you can be ready for that. If you don't pay attention, players communicate. Their communication gives you cues about the next play that allows us to anticipate. So all of those things are important. And if we read cues properly, guess what? It'll be easier to hustle. And in fact, we'll hustle even more. We'll get into even a more proper position.
I got a question. You're talking about the cue or whatever. Behind second base, you see the middle finger.
Middle finger? My days, they went like that.
No, hit the batter.
Yeah, if I saw that and they threw at the batter, I'd dump somebody.
Okay.
I'd go get out of here. I saw it. Let's take a break. That's an hour, right? I promise you we never go more than an hour before we break. So let's take a break and then we'll come back and do some more. We tried to do 45 minutes, but we got going a little bit. We actually did about 50 minutes.